It
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avagnoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World. And the topics just get more and more fun. I'm just saying. Very uncomfortable topics and I think it's good for us to be in an uncomfortable place right now because it's pushing us, it's propelling us for sure.
Well, and things are shifting because the same things, we're not in that comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no comfort zone anymore. So
No, and it's like there's no normal anymore. It's what we've been asking for.
yeah. Yep. Always going back to be careful what you ask.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Careful what you wish for. It's the whole genie, parable, three wishes
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
And we know what we're doing. Here's the thing. We have the strength to do this and the endurance and we do. Because we're the creators of this. We just don't, it's like we're testing. I want to say we're testing. It's like we're pushing ourselves to stand in our power in a way that we're very uncomfortable doing. Right.
Right.
Which means looking at things in such different light all the time and like letting go. And that's what this is. That's what brought us to this topic is relationships are exploding right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes sense that they are because they no longer served us the way they were. That energy of relationships doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it is what we've asked for. And
Sure as
and
hell
we've
is.
created it.
I know. And I laugh because, the challenges I've been going through in the last several weeks has been, as I can see it from expanded perspective, exactly what I've been asking for.
It is. It
And
is.
to get, and the thing was, okay, if this is truly what you're creating, and this is truly done with an open heart to allow all possibilities, then you have to allow that to happen, no matter what
Right.
it looks like. Right.
Right.
And that is extremely uncomfortable because, I was having a discussion with my husband the other day and I said, it's interesting that some things have come to the surface about myself in the past couple of
Right.
weeks that I didn't even know how to look at before. Like I didn't even know how to see it within myself.
Right.
And it all came through a huge, huge explosion between us. And it's like, well, the thing is that I have to be thankful for it because if I hadn't had that happen, I would have never seen that element to myself that
Right.
was there. And it answered a lot of things. And I'm like, holy crap, it goes all the way back like decades in my life and something for me to resolve, or accept. I don't even want to
Right.
say resolve, but accept that I have essentially denied myself in many ways. And so it was like, and when I finally saw that after the pain and the anger and everything, right, it was like, but yet so much gratitude because it's really
Now I'm
showing
not.
me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have never seen it. I would
Right.
have been blind to it and it would have continued on.
Well, and you would have been operating under that that phrase that I love, that you don't know what you don't know
Exactly.
until
Well,
you know it.
and that was exactly the theme of that whole conversation. It was like, and I'm like, and I said to him, I guess I can say thank you for dragging me kicking and screaming to it because
Right.
I would have never seen it.
Well, and relationships, especially those close ones like that, is they've signed up to be that mirror that doesn't go away.
Right.
And that is such a commitment from the heart to be that intimate reflection that you won't allow anyone else to be, or you
Right.
won't see it the same way.
Right. Right. And it takes us getting to vulnerability that we are not
Right.
comfortable allowing, right? Good
Right.
morning, Sandra. Good morning, Gloria. Yeah. And so this is a whole new dynamic in relationships, because we like to look at relationships as our comfort zone versus our
Right.
uncomfort zone kind of
Well,
thing.
it's like the safe harbor.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's where you turn when things get hard. And it's like,
Except
right, right. Yeah.
so it's yeah, and it's like I was talking about last week, though, it's this whole processing of like expanded consciousness and the ego, like seeing it, having gratitude for it, getting pissed about it, and then just having this cycle continuously,
Right.
and
Right.
discomfort continuously, which, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, it is important because we have such deeply ingrained things that we just don't even we've been talking about holographic communication, right? We talked about that several weeks back.
Right.
And it's sort of crazy because you think, well, how do you explain holographic communication? Here's a perfect example. There's an element to myself that I was denying, that I was ignoring, that kept a lot of things unanswered in terms of energy and things I attracted and things like that, right? And then finally I was just like, oh, and I think a lot of this is, I know a lot of this has been all of these things we've been uncovering over the past, well, I want to say the last month specifically, but I would say the past 7 months for sure.
I think since February.
Yeah.
At least.
Oh, I was thinking December when we were in Washington.
That's true. I was just thinking in terms of we launched that first course in February.
Right. And so, the ego wants to be resentful, to say, well, fuck you. Oh, excuse my French. The ego wants to say F you for making me come here.
Right.
Because I don't want to look.
I think I am.
Exactly.
Right.
And there's so much kicking and screaming with that. And that's the cycle, right? And it gets angry, and it gets, like I can't believe you, and I'm judging myself, and then judging him, judging this, judging that. And then it's like, except look at how beautifully it fills out the picture.
Well, and then you factor in that facet of the ego that sits there and says, but I do this work. I look at this.
I know. That was the other part.
Right.
Exactly. I'm like, I look at this every day. How did I not see it before? Right. And that's what I said. I was like, and this shows how much we still don't see about ourselves collectively.
Right.
Because
and it shows the value of that. It shows how smart we are in creating those reflections of ourselves.
So brilliant.
Yes, absolutely. Because otherwise we'd be lost.
Yeah. And I just said, looking at this, seeing this element to myself that I would have never seen otherwise.
Right.
And I look at this every day. And this is part of the conversation. I said, I look at myself every day. I help people look at themselves every day. Right. And I'm like, and I said, and if it took this much and this emergent of a situation for me to have this crisis, to see this, to finally uncover that part to myself, because all of it is just a reflection back to me. Right. Then it's just almost daunting and overwhelming as to how much the collective is ignoring about ourself in a hologram.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's, and I know this is another one of our courses, but it's like, if you think about the shadow, if it's 50% of who we are, there's so much of both the light and the shadow that we don't even acknowledge to ourselves.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's huge.
And I've been looking at that because I'm like, well, it's a great, Well, and the discomfort is the shadow, right? The discomfort is looking into the shadow, because it definitely is for me,
Right.
to see things that you've so masked from yourself.
Right. And it's not even that they're, and I hate to use the terms good and bad, but it's not that they're bad, they're just so unacknowledged.
Because we've given them so much power over us, right?
Right.
We've stuffed them down and ignored them and pretended they weren't there to such a degree. It's interesting. Oh, I didn't even put that together till now. Huh. So here's a little side story. My daughter is, she was a history major in college, blah, blah, blah. So she loves digging into history and whatever. So this past weekend, she just was playing around and did like a 14-day free trial to ancestry.com, right? And started
Right.
digging around, the family trees and all this kind of stuff. Well, what was interesting was I was pinged to say to her, do me a favor, see what you can dig up on my father, right? Because my father was always very evasive about his family, about
Right.
his mother died when he was a child. His dad died when he was, I think not even 18. And he never talked about his family. He grew up with his aunt and that was it. I'm like, and I don't know anything about that part of the family. Right.
Right.
So I said, do me a favor and see what you can dig up. And she dug and we came up with some really bizarre stuff. Right. And I was like, okay, never knew. Lithuanian, Estonian, all this kind of stuff. And that doesn't even matter, but just some weird crisscrosses and stuff. And I'm like, and at some point I thought, why is dad coming up now?
Right.
And the thing that my father has been, I respect him for now, is that he was such a deeply compulsive liar.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about that, and I've told you this before, is that he was a fabulous creator of reality, because he would,
what we call lies are just the creative process for them.
for him. And that would make my mom, because they divorced when I was really young, that would make my mother crazy, because he would say something, it would be so blatantly untrue, and then it would form around him and it would just get her so mad.
Right.
But and I did it at one point. I asked, what is it? Because he came around a lot after he passed away. And so for him to really sort of come up and ping me, right, I was like, all right, so what's this about?
Right.
Because dad's obviously, because it was just out of nowhere. I just stopped and I said, hey, do me a favor, and look at this. And usually I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And it was so, we still have some weird unresolved stuff we can't figure out, ties. It's bizarre, but I'm like, and then I was like, okay, so why is dad here? Dad's here to remind me about that the dark side of creation, which is the lying, right?
Right.
Denial and, just manipulation, right?
Perceived manipulation.
Perceived manipulation, right? So I funny that came up yesterday. so then I'm like, okay, well, and we consider that bad. We consider that bad, but
Right.
it truly is a master of creation, right? It's taking
It
creation
is.
into your own hands, regardless what everybody else around you says, and says, yep, this is how it is, and let it create.
Right. And all creation is essentially that way. It's always talked about that everything starts as an idea first, which is that manipulation of matter.
Well, and we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves all the time, right? We lie to ourselves all the time. We convince ourselves, we manipulate ourselves. So that's the whole funny part, is we manipulate ourselves we convince ourselves, we rationalize, we do this, we do that, whatever. And then all of a sudden you've created this whole thing and you're like, what the heck? Because I don't even know where to start to disassemble this, because this became such a huge burden when it just started out being this little denial, right?
Right. Well, and that one of my favorite quotes is, what's the Chinese proverb, what's a lie told 20 times? The truth.
The truth. Well, it's not even, you know what? It's not even a proverb. It's the truth in this country anyway. Right now. So.
But that is the truth. It's like it's all everything's relative.
Ask the media.
Right. Right.
But so here's the thing on this. We put so much weight on our relationships, especially our close ones, right?
Right.
And what you and I started talking about is we get crushed by our relationships.
Right.
We are more affected by our close relationships than anything else, right?
Right. And within those relationships, we still believe that we need that push, pull, give, take, resist, attract to make changes and
loyalty, like loyalty. Right. But then you know what? All of those words you just used and the one that I just used, ask 10 different people what that means.
And it's 10 different answers.
10 different answers. So, so no wonder we're a hot mess when it comes to relationships, because we're evolving and our relationships haven't, right? We haven't, we have, and what it comes down to is like what we were talking about on Friday was, that feels like it was 4,000 years away.
I know. I know.
Is the understanding of expectations. And we can pretend we don't have expectations with a relationship and say that, oh, no, it's fine. I can accept them who they are as who they are. Nope. We are not in the habit of doing that, because we expect them to be a certain way with us. That we expect them to be a certain way in the relationship. We expect them to do a certain thing. And it goes down this line. And when that breaks, it causes a crisis.
Right.
Right. And you say, oh, well, this is broken and da, da, da. Well, it's only broken because of the expectations that it was built around.
Absolutely.
And so the thing is the relationship broken, or is it a matter of adjusting expectations and asking guidance if it's for you to be in this relationship in a different manner of acceptance or partnership?
Right. I mean, and honestly, if there are those out there who put so much weight on, I want a relationship, I want to attract the perfect mate, the perfect partner, the whatever, then you start off right there with an expectation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's almost killer for a relationship, because you believe that it will fit in this box
and it'll fill a hole.
Right. And it will meet this criteria. And it's almost like the relationship potential should only come about after the people have met. And say, oh, I think that I can make a relationship out of this. Not, I want a relationship and this person just needs to fit the role.
I agree. I mean, it's time to really change the cards, right?
Yeah.
Because we are truly changing. So that's why there's so much dissonance and so many crises and so much, stuff going on. Because it's like, we still have the same old expectations for something that doesn't exist anymore. Like that we are, and it's like, okay, well, truly the relationship is a mirror to yourself. So every relationship you have is perfect.
Absolutely. Right.
And so, the ego goes,
right.
But the truth, that's the truth. I mean, it truly is about that. And it has to do with not just spouses and love and romantic relationships. It has to do with our children and our friends. I mean, there was something that you and I had gone through, not you and I together with each other, but with another friend, you know, that was very disjointing to us, right?
Right.
And it had to do with expectation of what a friend is, right?
Right.
And I recognize,
and on top of that, expectations of what a friendship is, as in it
right,
goes on forever,
right,
or it goes on for, you
right.
know,
And we say, oh, I can walk away from this.
right.
We say that. But then the question, see, so here's the question. It comes back to guidance, which is, by the way, the course that's launched this month on Ascended World.
That's right. Wonderland.
In Wonderland. So, but, and yeah, we have 20. This is a fab. I mean, honestly, this is a freaking killer course, by the way, just saying. Not to toot our own horn, but to toot our own horn. But, but the whole thing is, we can acknowledge we're run by the ego here, or we have traditionally been run by the ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can watch it and observe it, and we can thank it and everything else. The real shift is not judging what the ego feels or believes. It's seeing the expanded picture and asking the guidance from expanded consciousness as to what to do in every situation, what to be in every situation. And that is what, if we do one thing to change around our relationships and expectations, it's to say, is this my truth? Is it for me to do this? Is it for me to stay? Is it for me to leave? Right? Not should I, because that's an ego thing, right? Because the ego is going to go, right? But the expanded consciousness, when you say, well, is it for me to stay? Is it for me to leave? Is it for this? Is it time for this relationship to be done? Or is it time to move on? I mean, and you think, oh, wow, well, that's pretty heavy, right?
Right. Right.
Like if you're asking that all the time, but it's honest.
Right. Right. And one of the things that I've said in my part is that, you know, it's that having that level of trust that no matter how you interpret that guidance, it's always right. There is no right or wrong,
Right.
because it just means that it may not be the most direct route. You may have to circle back around, but it still was perfect for what you needed in that moment.
Yeah.
That's
Michael's
comment.
Yeah, Michael's comment, for real, the course has so much energy in it. It's like an energy gym to train. Every course, every month. And it's just as intense for us, if not even more so, than taking the course.
Right. Right.
I say, you know, like what you and I were talking when I was out there a couple weeks ago, and it was like, we signed up for 7 months of constant doing this.
I know.
And we also have courses right behind this program, you know, that we were talking about doing right beyond that. But yeah, anyway, so our relationships, I mean, it's like, what if we just started taking it day to day? And if the ego's screaming, no, I'm wanting to leave, and expanded consciousness says, nope, it's showing you something you need to see.
Right. Right.
Right. It's good to, it's important to stay right now, right? That kind of thing, right? I mean, and that is the shift for us, right? Because we're often too afraid to ask that question because we're too attached to the relationship.
Right. And attached in egoic ways.
Yes. Yep. And the whole we believe it provides us. And I mean, I still have that. And I'm still in that constant, you know, I know that I am so much further than I've ever been, and I'm so much more detached about all that kind of stuff, but there's still attachment. And we say, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's good. But nope, there's attachment. There's core attachment, because there's the shadow. And that's a great message for us, right? Why am I so attached?
Absolutely.
Where in the shadow am I attached to this, and why?
Right. Right.
Which, of course, leads back to guidance, just saying.
Right. Well, I mean, everything leads back to Wonderland.
Yes, it does.
All
Yes,
roads lead back to Wonderland. Right.
it does. It does. And so, so the thing for us to do is, and it is because the ego goes like, wants to vomit at that, going, what do you mean? I can't get attached to any relationships. I can't be attached to my spouse or my kids or my family or my pets or my friends.
Right.
And it's like, no, it's not. The thing is to really let relationships be the reflection they're there to be, and to let them go when they're ready to go, and to actually stay. The other part is sometimes it's harder to stay than when the ego wants to leave, right? Because
well, and when you think about it, if they truly are just that extension of yourself, they really don't go anywhere. It's just you've resolved the need for that portion or experience for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when it's time to go, it's time to go, right? When it's time to stay, it's time to stay. And usually it's the point. See, to me, it's the most productive when you're asking to if it's time to go or stay, right? And you're pulling, the ego says, nope, I want to go. And the expanded consciousness says, yeah, nope. Means
right.
Yeah, because this is a big one in your shadow that's reflecting back to you that you need to look at, or else it's just going to repeat itself.
Right. You'll just create it in someone else or something else just to look at it again.
And it'll get more uncomfortable.
Right. It typically escalates. Exactly.
It will be more uncomfortable next time.
Right.
So and that gives me, even saying that gives me a little pit in my stomach, it's like, but it's so productive. And like I said, I've come to find such in allowing this and sitting back. And you know what, even going through what we had done for the pilot course, the forgiveness course, which again is being relaunched next month in August,
right.
As part of the program here. But, it was forgiveness. And then we launched this, and it was worthiness and trust. And I think that has shifted so much.
I mean, it's such a, bring up the software, it's almost like reformatting the hard drive to allow it to accept a whole new level of operating system.
It is. And it's like, oh, but I'm going to lose this, but I'm going to lose. No, but you're going to gain so much more.
Right. To the point where you never will need what you think you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Michael says it's more like getting a whole new laptop. Yes.
That's true.
Okay.
True.
All right. Yep. To be honest, yes, you're absolutely right.
Honest, yep, you're right. You're right.
Supercharged. But and it, like I said, I am so emotionally just grateful to see it at the same time as it's been so daunting. And there are times when I'm like literally weak in the knees. I just don't know how to do this. Right. Like, it's like, and I'm talking about big picture stuff. I mean, I can't even tell you, and I'm not saying this with any derision or anything, but I've had, both of us have had crisis after crisis in different, like totally different ways for months, in such productive ways though.
I know. It's almost like you hate to label them crisis.
Right.
Because that implies a bad label.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a shift.
It's cathartic. It's freeing and liberating in ways that we just never let ourselves before do. So, and right now it's still sort of like everything feels like the rug's been pulled out underneath my feet. But I think that's going to be our MO from now on. Honestly, I think that's just a constant. It's a constant.
Well, until we have nothing under our feet.
Right. And we don't need it.
Right.
Which, scares the crud out of the ego,
Right.
For many. And like I said, when I was having a discussion about this the other day, I was like, yeah, and I do this for a living. I help people do this professionally. I've been doing it for more than a decade. I commit myself every day to my own self-work, and I'm still learning parts about myself that I have denied for a long time. And it took, and it takes me sometimes kicking and screaming to get there. And I just think, wow, how deeply buried we truly have. And we have set out such a task for ourselves but it's such a beautiful symphony of, so, okay, I can say explosion after, instead of crisis, explosion after explosion, but look at fireworks. Fireworks are gorgeous, and that's explosion after explosion.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So on the subject of, the week of the 4th here in the US, but it's like, okay, so it's explosion after explosion. It can be, in fact, it's really interesting. I didn't even think about this. I didn't go on Sunday to fireworks. I went, we went with friends Saturday night to some fireworks, and we hadn't gone to this particular park for fireworks before. So we didn't even know like where to sit. We just sort of walked up, and we sat in this spot, and it was the closest I've ever sat to fireworks going off, because it was like literally, I didn't realize they were sitting out right in the field, right where we were, like right there. And
right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I literally, we were sitting, and it was awesome, like incredible to be just right underneath it. Right.
Right.
But what's the downfall is you get the shrapnel coming out of the air from fireworks, but it was still beautiful. And it was like, and you could literally hear the pop, like as it was being, like set off, because we were so close, and to sit and look up and have it over, like just expansively. I mean, it was like amazing. But you had the shrapnel that was coming up, like, and it was like
okay.
the fallout. And so it was like, okay, so I could get annoyed and get up and move to a different place, or I can accept the shrapnel for what it is and just enjoy the show, like as it was shown. Right. So, I mean, that's a perfect kind of metaphor, because the explosions can be beautiful fireworks, and there's going to be some, what the ego considers fallout.
Right. Michael has a question. If we are not allowed to attach to something, is there another allowance we need to have our foundational energy? And I think that all comes back to authenticity and just that.
Yeah.
That's
a good question too.
Right.
Not that there are any bad questions, but that's a really good question.
Right.
It is that authenticity. It's the commitment to allowing our 100% authenticity in every moment.
Right, because what that does is it shows us that is just us, and that relationship, in all honesty, never goes away.
Yeah,
it almost is just reabsorbed or re-recognized as self. Oh, that feels really good.
Yeah.
That feels really good.
Well, and we fight the self-responsibility, which is course 5.
Which is another course.
Oh, y'all, just wait till next year, where we're going to take all the elements of life and we're going to put all 7 to each one. That's going to be the next set of courses.
Right.
But yeah, we pretend we're self-responsible, right? Except then we still blame other people for stuff.
Right. Or circumstances.
Yes. And, no matter what happens explosion wise in my life, it's like, okay, so the first thing the ego wants to do is like, right. And so I'll give it its time, but I'll step back in and watch, and not like let it do that. I'll just let it go, run through the scripts in my head, right? As best as I can. And then
let it wear itself out.
Let it wear itself out, have its temper tantrum. I've been getting very good at that this year. That seems to be the theme. Let it have its temper tantrum. Love it and honor it and cherish it.
And don't try to rise above it. Like we said, sit with it.
Sit with it in those energies, but don't let it take you away. That's the thing. It's like, so it's like simultaneously sitting, transcending it, but in it at the same time. Right.
Right.
But it's like, and in doing that, what is there here? What is there here for me? Like, what is it showing me that I wouldn't see if I was lost in this sea of emotion from the ego? And that's really what got me to what I could see before, like with this stuff that was going on. So it's like, and then it was like, when then you look at it, it's sort of like, getting the tarnish off of like a really old piece of silver. And then it's like, oh, wow. Wow. That is one bright mirror.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, so I think today, for our session, we will do something along the lines of allowing acceptance and authenticity of every relationship we have.
Oh, yeah.
Uncomfortable and liberating at the same time.
Seems to be our theme.
Yup. Uncomfortable. Yeah. Yep. Authenticity and
feel that.
of everything. Yep.
Oh,
Every relationship
okay.
we have and where it is and what it provides and yeah, where it is right now. All right. Let's go do that because I can feel that already.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that. All right.
All right. So everybody, let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath. Open your heart. Step out of separation. Back into wholeness and oneness. And as we hold ourselves at the vibration where that is our truth, that's from where we exist and that's from where we create. right. Yep, that was uncomfortable.
Yes, that was very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. Yep.
Like, okay, I think we can stop now. It's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I kept shifting and
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, yep, this is uncomfortable.
So obviously I'm gonna have to go and do that some more when we get home.
Yes, my guidance is to repeat this one.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But all good. It's all good stuff. I mean, it's also productive. And I would rather be productive, honestly, than cycling in the same muck.
Yeah, and it's interesting, we talk about labeling things and it's almost like comfortable is a bad thing now.
Michael says, my ego is like, are you sure you want to keep going?
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
But yeah, sorry, I'm distracted. What did you say?
Oh, it's almost like comfortable has become a negative, a bad thing instead of,
Right.
the positive that we've always run to be comfortable, rush to comfort level.
Right.
And now it's like that's the bad word.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael says hitting some walls here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Well,
sure.
yeah, and this is really raw.
Yes.
Because it tears down the structures that we have considered foundations.
Yeah, it's those foundational beliefs that
Yep.
we've built everything on.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh. So let's all see each other out there this week on this.
No kidding.
Shall we?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's good. Like I said, I don't feel like anything is bad anymore. It's just what it is, right? It's the explosion. So is the explosion cool or is it painful? It's up to us. Is it a crisis or is it a liberation?
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's whatever choice we see it in the moment.
Right.
So, all right, everyone. So thank you for joining us. We will see you next week or out there this week or both.
That's right. Yes.
This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avenuni
signing off with this week's Ascended World. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.